Mm-hmm. And you have developed a very specific method on the Charles River of measuring it almost hour by hour, which is an interesting thing, because the water quality does change hour to hour.
Yeah, in one of our past research projects, what we've done is we've employed a robot. Basically, it sounds more fancy than it is, but basically what it is, it's a big keg, almost like a beer keg, and inside it has 24 bottles, and it has pumps, and it has a little computer, and you can program it to take samples every hour for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And then it keeps them on ice and makes sure everything is clean. And then, so there's a way to collect samples on an hourly basis. Then we take them to the lab, we analyze them, and what we get is an hourly time series. So that allows us to look at how the water quality changes on an hour-to-hour basis. And what we saw was something that really was quite surprising, and because the water quality does change very rapidly on the time scale of hours.
Yeah, and some of it is the rain, but we will have an image later that there are other factors that you have discovered, which I think is a whole new interesting element. So let's go to that next image. You have a petri dish. So what are you testing?
Okay, this is actually a petri dish from our class in Europe, and if I remember correctly, this is from the lagoon in Venice. One of the student groups went there, and what you see there is basically it's a test for bacteria. So what we do is we take some water and we mix it with this basically sugar water, which is food for the bacteria. And then we put it in an oven for 24 hours, and we let the bacteria grow. What this test is doing is it also has some color dye in it. So different types of bacteria will show up with different colors. Now the pink dots on this picture are actually what we would refer to as total coliform bacteria.
You're getting into quite some details. I want to make sure that we also, I want you to tell us a bit more about your the survey, because I think that is something very interesting. You did some surveys here about asking people of how they feel about swimming.
That's right, because one of the theories, or one of our hypotheses, it was that people don't swim in the Charles, or they don't want to swim because they don't think of the Charles River as a swimmable river. Which is fundamentally different to the way many European citizens feel about the river. So regardless of whether the water quality is good or bad, we won't swim unless we change our public opinion. So what we've done is we've surveyed the people, and what you saw in that picture was a number of our students just grabbing people and asking them a question. And here's an example of one of the results. What you see here is the answers to the questions: why are you not swimming in this
and you might want
water
to read
body?
it.
Yeah, and what you see is that the number one reason was that the water is too dirty, and this is for, results for the Charles River. And then the second bar is the person is using other swimming facilities. The third bar is that there's not a safe place to swim, so that's an access issue. The fourth bar is swimming is not allowed, so that's a legal issue. And the last bar was that the person does not enjoy swimming.
But the very biggest one is, in fact, that the water is too dirty, the perception of the water being too dirty. And I think the song that's played after the games has much to do with that. There is this enormous perception about that. And
the statistics of our surveys show it, as well as the comments that we received. I mean, a lot of our students came back and said, well, these people thought we were crazy about swimming in the Charles. And that was some of the comments that they came back with.
Yeah. And we have a picture here of a comparison between Boston and Geneva. And the water quality is very comparable, would you say, in terms of the area of swimming?
I would say that Geneva is probably a little bit better than the Charles River.
The Rhone flows a little bit faster, so yeah. But it was actually so bad in Geneva. There were years where people were not allowed to swim.
Oh, sure.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
As many urban water bodies have a history of pollution.
Yeah, yeah. But the funny thing is, people swam in the Charles up to 1955, and it was very polluted. It was not that it was clean. People just didn't know it was dirty. So it is very much a perception issue. Obviously, we want it to be safe, but the perception is such a big thing to overcome. So we have some pictures here of your trip. In Switzerland. Where are you here?
This is a wonderful location, which I will never forget. This is actually on the Aare River in Bern, and this is a river that's very fast flowing, and people swim in it, and it was really amazing. So we got to this location, and you can see it's the water was actually very cold. And
it's always very cold, and it has this kind of milky quality because it's glacial.
It's a milky quality.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a particularly nice day. It was maybe a little bit chilly, although it looks nice in that picture. And it wasn't a weekend. It was like a weekday. But what we found was hundreds and hundreds of people jumping into this river and swimming down it, and really for no special reason. It is part of their life.
It's part of the culture of that city, of the capital of Switzerland.
And we were a little bit scared. The other thing that doesn't show up in that picture very much is that it's a very rapid moving river, and you jump in it and you're going very fast, and you can't fight the current. There's no way you can swim upstream, and you just you feel like you're almost in a car on a highway looking out, and it's going by so fast.
It's very exciting. We don't have that aspect in the Charles, but the fact that this river also flows, the picture doesn't show that, right through the middle of the city. You are right below the parliament and the old city, so you are in the center of the city, and a lot of people come at lunchtime and with their towel, they walk up the river, they jump in, they sometimes have these bags, and they put their clothes in there. That's right. And they go down. And
wouldn't that be very comparable to swimming in the Charles River and then looking up at the State House?
Yeah, yeah. Here the picture here shows the city in the background. You're getting ready to swim. I see you didn't have those plastic bags. You left your luggage there before you went into the river.
We did the old-fashioned method of having a base camp, walking upriver, jumping in, and then drifting down. And in that picture, you see us basically sort of planning, and I think I may be going through a little bit of a safety lecture.
Yeah. Oh, it's a very interesting. It's moving so fast, so there are bars that you want to grab, so you don't end up in the nets with the fish. Yeah. Well, let's return to the Charles River. You've done some very interesting studies that I'd like you to explain to us on this map of where you have done testing. We are looking at the map of between the Mass Avenue Bridge and the Longfellow Bridge. So what do those green dots represent?
Well, each one of those dots is a sample, is where we took a sample and analyzed it for E. coli. And the reason why we took it at this relatively high density was that we thought that just as when we noticed in our time series that the water quality changes very rapidly in time, we thought that it may also change very rapidly in space. All these dots are colored green, and that means they are all below the swimming standard.
That means it's safe to swim.
According to the EPA standard.
Yeah. And then the next picture shows some red in there, and that means there's a problem there.
That means these samples came back above the standard. So what you can see there is obviously a location where the water quality is bad, somewhat of a plume, a small area.
Yeah. And